Alrighty. Good afternoon, guys. What's going on? Pretty sideways day, huh? Uh, a little bit of what yesterday morning was like, but for the entire day. Yesterday, another good day, right? We continued the move from Monday. Today, a lull. We had some interesting things going on with. I don't know if you saw the whole Fannie and Freddie thing going on with housing and regulators and some interaction from the politics side. We'll have to see what exactly that digests into. I'm not really sure. It doesn't seem like the market really did much of anything. I mean, it affects investors in some sort of way on a very passive side. I actually used to, I actually used to know somebody that uh, basically only invested in passive Fannie and Freddie for I don't know for whatever reason, but they did pretty well. Uh, and Spoon says boomer retail perhaps as well. Yeah, I think there's a group of investors out there that are pretty passive and they like the idea of just sitting on those. And there's different ways that dividends get uh factored in, and it's always been a pretty good portfolio for $1 million up sort of situation. And we also know that there's mutual funds out there that had positions like that. If we think about what exactly that means for that group, then we know exactly what they're going to do. What are they going to do? They're going to come and buy dividends on other passive sort of blue chip value sort of ideas. So we're kind of really in a nice position for those um, new sort of entries. We'll have to see what again. Who knows when that happens and everything else. But it is something interesting that did happen today. Otherwise, again, we'll just take a look at the 15-minute here, just to kind of give my thoughts on the day. Obviously, I wasn't here this morning. I took a look. I'm like, okay. Of course, there's a few trades I took. We'll take a look at things like Tesla, but completely flat. Some take profit at close. Doesn't really look like anything as after hours is up. On the growth side, very much the same thing. No one did basically anything. There was almost no trading. Almost no trading. Uh, I don't think there really needs to be any comment on why that happens. We've had a really nice 2 days here to start the week. Sideways trading is good. This was not so much the sideways trading where we see opportunities on things we're looking at as much. There are a few things I'm going to mention uh, in terms of trades that were doable. But just look at this trend, right? That trend is quite the trend to look at, and again, everything else we've talked about continues here, and so really nice market we're in right now. If we take a look at this side of growth that is tied to clean energy and looking at that through solar, EVs, everything, that's sort of what had a day to day. I don't know exactly if there was inflow or there was certainly no rotation, so we just saw more buying specifically there. So if we take a look at some of these different ideas here that we have talked about, you saw it across the board for meme stocks, for things that are known, been around. SunPower had a nice day, 6%. It's sort of a continuation, but it was certainly the entire sector did a lot better. And also, the snap trade we took from yesterday, good job, anybody that took that. We're in the money on our 65s that expire this week. If anyone saw, that's a pretty big percent. I'm not going to do what we did last time with AMD and go, that was 1,000%. But I'm pretty sure you could have got 1,000% if you took it at the same time. So the risk paid off again, which is why we talked again yesterday about how we can take these trades. We may have to take a few of them, quite a few of them. You only need really one of these to pay off to go cover 100 entries on them, right? So the snap trade worked there. Yes, already the profit. I'm not going to sit there and watch it go up again tomorrow and question whether we should get out of a weekly call that expires in 2 days, right? So that was really nice. I was happy with that. Again, it's fun. I think it's fun to go buy weeklies when nothing happens, because we saw Facebook and Twitter move yesterday, and then snaps it here. Again, we took a few of those trades, but pretty cute. Pretty cute to get a 6%, almost on snap there. Tesla. Let's take a look at Tesla. So, Ben, the big thing with Tesla here, we talked about we're not going to buy in on pullbacks, breakouts only. Today it opened higher above resistance, so we can turn this bad boy to support. You're in the middle of nowhere, a lot of open space, and this is the kind of candle that we look for, and that's what you want to see, right? Now, again, we were already looking at it before and ready for whenever it was going to happen. I talked about how, yes, you could technically be in here, but I wanted to make sure because, again, probability says that you could just continue to consolidate. We got a really nice open, and this is the kind of thing you look for, right? This is when you're sitting there and you see price open above, which is what we consider a breakout, and then you watch the opening action here, it makes things very easy. I don't know if anyone else noticed. I saw Mobsky posted into chat. When you were watching this in open, you could just tell. There was not this like question of, are we open higher? Are we kind of going bid? No, this was, we broke through resistance and we're bid, right? There was no question. And so those are the kind of confidence plays that we like, and also it does make me feel better for waiting to enter it, because when we look at where we were before, from this entry a week ago, it just kind of didn't feel as great, right? We were not really sure about it. Yes, you would have technically been up more, but I do feel comfortable with, or felt more comfortable waiting. And so we got the break today. It should be really interesting, right? This again is really off the back of the NASDAQ being all-time high and continuing to trend, with the rest of our mega caps doing very well, right? Mega caps today were kind of break even with the market, right? Sort of, again, off the tail of really nice day yesterday and Monday, right? And just continued trend. But Tesla here, I think it does matter. This is going to be a lot of momentum trading. Being in position already makes things a lot easier. If you're not in position on something like this, obviously there's a lot of time. If we do a discussion like we had with Apple and Amazon, of course the other mega caps sort of went through this phase as well, but they went to their all-time highs much quicker. If we put this into the Apple and Amazon dynamic, we think about how far we are. You're talking about 35% to its high. If you think about that upside, you're talking about, a percent that's, you couldn't do it in one swing, obviously. And so being on what looks like to be a new breakout and a trend, we should be able to get multiple nice trades through here. I think it's going to be very important that we think about the volatility that's involved with a trade like this, and it's not volatility like we saw before. The volatility before only led to the upside. We have to be careful in a position like this, because the downside could happen basically at any point. Take profits happen, because no one wants to sit in this position. People want to get in and out. So when you take this, let's say you entered at open today, like I think most people did, we're looking for where we would be transitioning, right? And so now we have to start to do a little bit of a game of thinking, not so much where's the perfect place to exit, right? We don't really have a level in here, but let me move this. But maybe a question of, well, what area would people be taking profit before maybe they look to re-enter, right? For short-term trades. The 690 area is what I was looking at this morning, thinking, okay, maybe about 690 is a spot. Again, it's not so much that you see a range. The range would really be maybe up in this area, maybe 780 or something like that. That would maybe be the range, because that's where it came before, right? So that's pretty clear. But again, maybe this into this area, we'll look for the first transition, and maybe then we'll look for the next entry, right? It comes down to what you're buying, right? If you bought longer term because maybe you're, a believer in Tesla, you want to be a little bit more on that side, then you're going to be able to push through a lot, which gives you more legs. If you remember back when we were taking breakouts on tech before, we talked a lot about having the legs to run a position so that you can hold through pullbacks. I think there's nothing wrong with that, but I do see problems coming in where you have just sort of the mental angle where you're going to be selling on lows because you're going to be trying to hold through a pullback to push your winnings. But then, again, anything could really happen with the volatility here on Tesla, and then you end up not taking as much. I'd rather be, climbing the ladder here, and we just got 5.5% today. Let's climb the ladder, take some profit, and then re-enter, transition, maybe a little bit more, right, than usual. but I think it's a great day. So definitely looking at this side of things. We've talked about clean energy and the way that broke out a couple weeks ago. We've been looking for Tesla, so that move finally happened. Now there is another link here that I think should be made, which is the COVID winners sort of angle, and we're seeing a lot of the meme stock sort of crowd and retail traders start to get back into those names from before, which is sort of what you could look at as clean energy, right? That's what they were mostly buying. But we saw things like C Trader mentioned OSTK. OSTK also got bid, which if you look at this, we would have already painted a picture that this is here leading to some sort of flag looking breakout, sure. But again, it came right when with all the other tickers are. Everything lined up in such a way that we had a blanket sort of buying spree across all these. Again, not specifically large names, but names from COVID winners. And so I think that makes an interesting dynamic still. And so, again, a lot of these, when you think about where exactly are some of these trades going to go, I mean, OSTK is funking. This is a lot of, excuse my French, but this is a lot of points we've talked about. And when you keep doing these swings that are 35, 40%, I mean, it's just a lot of money. And so, again, if these things are getting going, they might seem crazy and silly, just like we kind of did last year, but it's crazy not to go take chances on some of these, which is, again, we did some interesting things yesterday leading into today that, of course, paid off in some interesting ways. Twitter continued here, right? These ideas of putting on a short weekly positions. This did not pay as much as the Snap one because it moved yesterday, but these are just trades that they feel fun and they pay an ass load of money, right? The other thing also, so growth, yeah. Of course, that made money. The Roku continued. I mean, what else do we even need to say about this? This thing is just gone, right? So great job to everyone that's, we talked about it yesterday, but at this point, it's kind of redundant to keep, hitting on the same thing, but this continues. We're making money on it still. The other thing is, I talked about retail stores. So we mentioned things like Urban yesterday, and those are now breaking out of what it looks like their range. And again, this discussion of inflation is so funny because now, just like what we had with Powell testifying, and we get more confirmation that no, inflation's here and it's hot. And didn't we just sell last week and rotate into growth because we're going to be bringing interest rates back because inflation's too hot? And now this week, we're getting reminded that inflation is very hot, and so now it's a good thing, right? Again, we've talked about this a lot. We do not want to use other people's sort of emotion and opinion about what inflation is and just continue to buy shit, right? We're going to continue to be bid because at the end of the day, even if there's a pullback, that's exactly what we want. And if they're pulling back for the inflation reason, then it's exactly why it's going to go up thereafter, right? So we do like when there's pullbacks. I do find the retail store side the funniest because it's so directly tied to consumers and then the prices they pay. And people are willing to pay the price, which is exactly the question of inflation. Are people going to be willing to pay for those prices without some sort of, outrage or some sort of thing that actually affects the economy? And there's no problem, right? People are just buying shit. And so there's no real issue. And it's really why we took advantage of the move to begin with, right? That's really where we started the entire not value discussion altogether, but really in terms of inflation with consumers, it's the most direct to consumer sort of tie you can find, right? In terms of inflation and prices and in the way in which it affects a company. So I thought that was interesting. And so we saw a lot of those. I'm not going to mention all the names, but they are there. And so value is still very good on the volatile side, right? Another fun one, space. We had the breakout yesterday. I was pretty happy about it, of course, and we continued today. And so, again, this chart is really one of the silly charts. Absolutely a silly chart. It's a meme stock, sort of tied with, I don't know. There's some retracement ideas, I guess you could say, right? Retracement on this side, and I think whenever you have a high, people always believe that it can just go right to the high. I mean, I even talk in that way a lot because that's just how people think. And so you get to a low and people think it comes back to the high. And so I'm going to be continuing to look to push that, of course. I mean, it looks decent enough. We got a nice short breakout, so I would like to be able to push it to Friday at least. That'd be great. So we'll see how that continues. Forward, our forward position that we took again right on the pullback when this thing started to break back through on Monday. This now, or excuse me, Friday. This now is looking a lot better. We got more bid today. Again, getting a little bit of that EV sort of angle tied into Ford helps a lot, and so that got some bid today. Now they're Tesla and Ford are moving together. We were talking about their opposing forces that they were basically all up until this week. That's what was happening. They were basically opposites. Now they're looking pretty good together. I mean, we'll have to see. Again, I think there are chances that you return to some sort of mean of what we had before. So we'll have to be careful with if we're trading both of them, but it makes sense to have them both. So pretty happy with what we're seeing there as well, right? Oh, cops are coming for me. All right. In terms of a couple other things, because I think people have some questions. Z, we were able to hold through yesterday. Today really helped out with this position a lot because we increased sort of the baseline. This will allow us to at least, from the points that we gained today, it will at least allow us to see a little bit further. So we'll be able to push it a little bit further. I think the best case scenario is we're able to at least stay stable or gain a few more points to be able to push it over the weekend. I think that's kind of what this chart needs. It didn't get as much really attention as some of the other tickers today, which again, there's nothing wrong with that. I think it did enough. But when it comes down to it, we want to be in the best positions possible. This position that we're in should be stable enough to go find when it's going to be, and I think we're at the right time. And so we'll look to continue to push this position, but we should be safe from having to get stopped out now, or at the very least having to sell because it's just not doing enough for us. I think it's good enough here. And again, another example of we bought at the low end of the range, and a lot of things are coming out, and we're really just looking for them to come back up to some sort of high. They don't need to go to their all-time. That we just need to come up to a high for a real nice trade. And so these positions again that are a little bit slower. We want to be careful about exiting them quickly just because they're not moving as fast as some of the others. You have to really put into perspective, would I have been able to catch this? Like, do I need to have FOMO? Would I have been able to catch the momentum here before it happened? Depends, right? Sometimes it's kind of like, I don't think so. Probably not going to happen, right? So I do like the positions we're in. There's other ones that we don't really need to mention. And let me finish it off with, we look at sort of the Dow side with value. Had a very similar day. It was a little bit slower because of all the bid across the market. When we look at things like energy and banks, they are still trending up and look good. And so we're kind of getting, again, back to where we were on energy. Banks is the biggest one that still has points to gain. When I look at this side, I do think of the Fannie and Freddie news right now. And I think that you're most likely getting into some sort of angle on this side, right? So the bank dividends make a lot of sense. So possibly picking up individual banks a little bit more for some sort of short-term idea would be interesting. We, of course, took it on this candle, right, from Friday, and we put that bet on. But again, that's just sort of a start to this position. And so that position is doing very well for us, right? We're doing very well for us, but I think we could get some exposure to maybe whoever's going to be buying long here. I do want to wait and see that first before I would double down on a position because we did buy short term for this move to get exposure to the short term. It's paying off the most for energy because the move came so quick. This is probably a take profit. Tomorrow, if we do not open higher, put a higher low on again, we'll probably take profit and look to put a new position on, transition it because again we got a ton of points from this move from being again a July monthly focus sort of position. And so we'll look to take that transition. And then I think when we look at the numbers, it will be more favorable towards the bank side, towards the percentage of our port. So we'll take a look at that. Otherwise, a decent day. Not much again. Again, I wasn't here this morning because wasn't much going on. Pretty tired. Caught up on some sleep. Not really any charts I had last night. If I'm doing charts tonight, I think there might be a few that Now technically broke out yesterday, so you might have some charts that I'll post as dated yesterday because they did break out today. That's sort of what the day was, right? Was things that actually broke out yesterday. They kind of confirmed it today. So I think I might do that on a few charts from tonight. So just be mindful that that's why I'm doing it, because I didn't really see it yesterday. And so that's what I got, folks. It should be interesting. 2 days left. We've been bid. Market's going through all-time high. Again, Nasdaq keeps going. S&P's right there. Looks like tomorrow, if it's not a stop late day like today, we should be all-time high, and it's gonna be a lot of fun to continue to push positions. So we'll look for what we get. I'll be here in the morning. So I'll see you guys then. Enjoy your night, evening, wherever you are. Until then.